Thom Hartmann here on the news. You need to know this. Planet Earth is turning against us. Yesterday, violent storms lashed the southern United States, spinning off tornadoes and killing more than 190 people. 128 people were killed in the state of Alabama alone yesterday, promoting Alabama authorities to declare a state of emergency. Arkansas and Tennessee have also declared states of emergency. 3 nuclear reactors at Browns Ferry Nuclear Power Plant were knocked off power in the storms. Luckily, the NRC confirmed that their backup generators came on properly to just barely avert a Fukushima-like disaster here in the United States. So how much more evidence do climate deniers need to understand that our planet is entering dangerous times as a result of our pollution? And by climate change deniers, I'm talking about every newly elected Republican in the United States House of Representatives who are all self-proclaimed deniers of man-made global warming. That's what millions and millions in big oil campaign contributions gets us, industry-owned politicians. It's becoming painfully, very painfully clear that what's going on here and soon, what is going on here, and that soon it will be too late to reverse the damage we're doing to our planet. Who's screwed? The working class. New numbers show the economy slowed down in the first quarter of this year, growing at a measly 1.8%. And there are concerns over rising inflation, surging at a rate higher than 2.5 years. Even Walmart is noticing the economic decline. CEO Mike Duke admitted yesterday that his shoppers are, quote, running out of money. Coincidentally, so are his 1.4 million underpaid employees. Economists base the economic slowdown on rising gas prices, but get this, ExxonMobil just posted a profit of $10.7 billion for the first 3 months of this year. So the national economy slowed down in the first quarter, but the world's largest oil company is doing better than ever. It's starting to seem like these transnational corporate leeches don't care that they do better when America gets worse. We're literally handing ExxonMobil billions in subsidies every year to screw us over at the gas pumps, and Republicans in Congress won't let us stop it. After 4 months of corporatist Republican rule in the House of Representatives, it should be no surprise that our economy is crashing just in time for the 2012 presidential election. In the best of the rest of the news, what mega corporation is vying to be the world's most hated this week? Sony. Week after Sony's PlayStation network was hacked, the corporation finally told customers yesterday that their personal information might have been stolen in what is now being called the biggest breach of online security since the invention of the internet. Names, birthdays, email addresses, passwords, all of it exposed to hackers last week and unbeknownst to many PlayStation users. Even credit card numbers might have been stolen as well. Online privacy is quickly becoming issue number 1 as our world gets more and more wired in. And unfortunately, it looks like some corporations are willing to cut corners and lie about how secure their networks are just so they can make higher profits. The talking heads are getting sent around by the birthers, and they read, "Don't give up and take loads of credit." After the president had to stoop down to the likes of Fox News and release his birth certificate yesterday, temporarily deflating the birther bubble, the birthers are refusing to admit the simple truth: they were wrong. Instead, practically all of them are patting their own backs for wasting everyone's time and forcing our president to address their insanity rather than the nation's problems. As Trump said yesterday, "I've never been so proud of myself." And as the kudos are passed around on the right, the real birther crazies have moved on to a whole new set of Obama conspiracy theories. Trump wants to see President Obama's education records to see just how our president got into Harvard. And Orly Tates, the queen of the birthers, said on my TV talk show last night that Obama wasn't just born in Kenya, he's also committing Social Security fraud. Welcome to the endless Republican investigations of Watergate 2. We've seen this movie before, and it's ugly. In our Republican War on Women news, guess what Republican State Representative John Labroso from Louisiana, wants to do with women who get an abortion? How about throwing them in prison for 15 years? He just introduced a bill that would amend current law in that state to include putting women in prison for getting an abortion. His office later backed off on the move, claiming it was a misdraft. But this is the same guy who back in 2008 proposed paying women $1,000 to have their tubes tied and curb the use of food stamps. Yeah, he's full of great ideas. But if you think he's just one lone nut down in Louisiana, Consider that well over 900 anti-women bills have been introduced around the country since the Republicans won last year's midterms. It's a full-scale war on women, with some Republican men just more gung-ho than others. Recent FBI numbers show that 247 people whose names are on the so-called terrorist watch list were allowed to buy guns last year. So we'll stop these guys at the airport, but when it comes to guns, sure, walk right in, have a field day. Nothing like a country full of well-armed terrorists who just have to drive instead of flying. Makes perfect sense. The spring of discontent for the Republican Party continues. During the last week at town halls across the country, voters are giving congressional Republicans a shellacking for voting to privatize Medicare 2 weeks ago. Paul Ryan himself, the guy who wrote the bill to privatize Medicare, was the latest Republican to get shouted down by his constituents. When he tried to convince the audience that our corporations pay taxes that are too high, he was booed and called a liar. Paul, welcome to life outside the bubble. And that's the way it is today, Thursday, April 28th, 2011. I'm Thom Hartmann on the news.